when you talk about content, I think we do have a content specialist, Nisha. Nisha,
Yep.
I was talking to you a couple of days back and also yesterday, and you talked about having a plan for your content. I mean, when you say about a company or a personal person, what kind of plans you're talking about, and uh, how important is it that the target audience is kept in mind, and how do you actually plan the content? I mean, that's something which keeps coming to us. I mean, do we plan it or just keep on going the way it is coming? I'd like to love to know about that from
Thank
you.
you so much for asking. So just like money, we have to make our content work for our social media rather than we working for social media. And the content will only work on social media if we have a plan. But before the plan comes a vision. What exactly are we trying to achieve out of everything that we are doing? You know, we can't be randomly putting posts and some, some small creative, made on Canva, or, just, randomly writing a blog here and there. That is not going to achieve anything for us. So it is really, really important to first, actually put it down on pen and paper of what we really want to achieve. So if it is a personal brand, now personal brand again is a very blanket term, but what exactly we want, what kind of brand we want to achieve? Do we want to be a thought leader? Do we want to come across as an expert and a specialist? Are we trying to grow our marketing? These questions are very important, and these questions actually require going back on drawing board and brainstorming, either with the team members, or if you're doing it solo, or if you're working with a consultant, so whosoever. It is very, very important to figure out the purpose of creating a brand. A. B. So once you have figured that out, then you move to the kind of content that you want to produce so that you are able to achieve that purpose. And you're able to achieve, you're able to tell your target audience that this is who you are, this is what your journey has been, and this is how you have been doing things. And so you start building trust, you start building credibility. People keep on reading about you, or reading your content, or interacting and engaging with your content across a period of time consistently, and they begin to trust you because you are there. So another very important thing is, of course, when we are making content, we can't just do it in a random fashion here, there, and once in a while, once a week, twice a week. There has to be a proper cadence to it. So building a content plan also means building a very sharp content calendar based on the kind of purpose that you want to achieve. And then you start working. That is your baseline. This is a given.
Mhm.
And once you have got all of these steps out of the way, then you start working on building your content basis what you want to achieve out of it. So yes, everything starts with a plan, but before everything, before you put a plan in place, actually the real question is, what is the purpose of that content? Because we have so much content out there. How do you stand out? How do you stand? How do you make your voice heard? Why should people be engaging or connecting with you? So hence, once you understand your purpose, you start building content in that fashion, and then you slowly start building your vintage on the social media platforms.
But do you plan like weekly, monthly? Of course, you have a target in mind, but when you plan your content, how do you plan it? I mean, is it weekly or a monthly plan in terms of content?
Sandeep, it is a very, again, it's a very one-off question. It's a very unique to every individual.
Okay.
So for example, how much time? See, building content and then distributing it, and then measuring that content, and then tweaking, and then, it's like, doing that entire exercise once again. It's more like, build, test, measure, repeat, build, test, measure, repeat.
Okay.
So there has to be a cadence, and it depends on how much bandwidth you really have. But whatever you do it, doing it once a week, you're doing it twice a week, you're doing it 5 times in a month, you have to be consistent. So if I'm your target audience and I'm following you, I'm following Sandeep Kaushik as an expert in publishing, then I need to know that, okay, every Thursday Sandeep is going to post something on LinkedIn. So I'm looking forward to it. If I've already connected with you, if I'm already following you, then I need to know that you will be doing it every Thursday.
Okay.
So, because the average attention span is going down, and attention is the biggest currency, that content has to be very well thought of. That content needs to tell me something about your journey, something about your work, something about you, something which adds value to who I am, or what I'm doing in my as a user. so that I'm coming back to you again and again and again. And that takes a bit of a time. But building the content calendar, it's again a very personal journey. Against there is no right and
Sure.
wrong there. It depends on what kind of bandwidth you have. It depends on whether you have a team or you're working solo or you're working with someone, you have hired a freelancer. So there are a lot of things that you need to take into consideration. But the most important thing here is be consistent. So if you, that's why building a content calendar is really important, because when you know that you have to publish something on Monday morning, you have it beforehand ready to go on Monday morning.
So I think my question to you would be, I mean, there are people who will be using some agencies like content agencies like you,
Mhm.
or maybe some media agencies who will be kind of doing a, complete job
Yeah,
for
we,
them.
we do a lot of content as well, Sandeep. We do a lot of video content as well.
Okay, great.
So I just want to add something to what Nisha was saying.
Very, very good one at that, Kabir.
Thank you. So you're absolutely right, Nish, that the planning has to be very, very particular and very clear. You have to have a slightly larger time horizon in mind, because there may be certain content which may take a little time to create. Ideally, let's say if you were posting on a regular basis, if you're posting maybe once a day or multiple times in a week, you don't want the same format of content to go out. So if you have a video the one day, you'll have a photograph based post another day, maybe something else on a different day. So you have to keep in mind that it takes different amount of time to create a different kind of content. So that's why your calendar has to be backed by a different amount of work that goes into different kind of posts as well.
You know, ideally, it is the best thing to create a calendar per month. So let's say in the month of May, this is what you're going to do. In the month of June, this is what you're going to do. This is in the month of July, this is what you're going to do, and that has to be based on your goals and your plans. So let's say, for example, if you're just starting, people are getting to know you, and it is a social media, so you have to be social. So go easy, start building your vintage, start putting content out there, inviting people's opinion, send out the links to your friends so that they are able to come and at least engage with you at that point of time. And then slowly the algorithm will also pick up, because you are putting content on a regular fashion, and your people are engaging with that content, or content on a regular fashion too. But
Okay.
it is really, the consistency is always the key. Without that, you're lost. All that effort that you will do will be lost. It's almost like
Consistency.
you're putting, yeah.
Consistency is the key, guys. That's what I'm here. So another question is coming to you, Nisha,
Absolutely.
is that, as I said that, I mean, some people are using creative agencies and media agencies. For them, creativity is coming through them, their content team, and people experts like you. Suppose I want to do it myself. I mean,
Right.
how can you kind of think about creative ideas? I mean, how does it come to you? Does it come naturally to you, or there's a process to kind of uh, having some creative mindset or creative ideas? How do you come up with these new ideas?
It is actually very easy. Suppose if you want to talk about your industry, go out and see what other people are doing.
Hmm.
Talk to other people, engage in their thought processes, learn from them, build on top of what they are saying. So you will be able to find out ideas. You will be able to find out thought which resonates with you. As Harbinder said in the very beginning, it has to be authentic. So let's say, for example, if you're working in publishing industry, and let's say you're talking about children's book, then there are so many other cluster topics around that publishing that you can actually talk about. You can actually pick up and start building around it and engaging around it. So ideas are many. The internet is full of it. You have to pick your topics, write it down on piece of paper on what resonates with you, where you feel comfortable, where you have knowledge and expertise, and then start talking about them.
Okay.
Honestly, it's a very simple exercise, and you can actually do it on your Excel sheet. Just list on two or three parent topic, and then three or four cluster topic around it. So let's say publishing, children book publishing, then again you can make another cluster of 4 to 7, or 8 to 9. What is happening in that particular segment? How are children behaving? What has changed? How is technology impacting? There are so many ways you can actually start building your cluster. So once you have that cluster in place, it will be very easy to build your content calendar based out of that. So basically, content calendar is a very simple exercise. You just look at week 1, I'm going to talk about this, this, and this topic. I'm going to put out this, this, and this cluster, and that is it. Pick up two parent topic and three clusters, and you are ready for a week.
Awesome. So I think Harbinder and Meher both wants to say something about that. Meher, please go first, and then I'll go to you, Harbinder.
So adding on to what Nisha says, and I strongly feel that everybody who feels that there is a shortage of content, there are two exercises that you guys are supposed to be doing, and which should be at the top of your agenda. The first and the most important thing is that, I read this book about traffic by Russell Brunson, and one of the topmost influencer at this moment on the internet. He talks about Dream 100. The Dream 100 is the 100 topmost people in your industry. Now, when I say your industry, I mean that your audience are following them, So you need to identify those 100 people that your audience must be following.
Yes.
Must be looking up to. This is the era of followers. This is the era of influencers. So if you are in any particular domain or niche, the first thing that you do is you list down the top 100. It can start with, in my case, it's Gary Vee. It could start with Tony Robbins. It can start with Warren Buffett. It could start with Donald Trump. So if you think that your audience are looking up or following those people, you got to start following that person as well. Once you start following those people, your audience would be communicating to them. And that's where the juice is. So your audience would be asking them things. Your audience would be connecting to them. Your audience must be responding to them. And obviously, they are not answering all the questions. So then you know that what is missing for your audience. Then that becomes the part of your content calendar. And the second and the most important part is that after you figure out your Dream 100 people, then you need to find out the communities where they hang out. I mean, I'm going to ask you a straight question to the entire people in this group right now. There are 67 people. You guys are here for a personal branding session. How many of you guys are following or are part of Facebook group where your community is there? That's the first question. How many of you are there? How many of you are part of Facebook group? Please don't tell me you're part of Facebook groups of Gurgaon moms and other moms and blah stuff if that's not your audience. If that's your audience, it's fine. But how many of you are part of the community where your audience are hanging out? Give me a yes or a no. How many of you guys are? Yes, you are, right? Now that's after I hear your yes, the next question I want to ask is, how many of you are contributing there? How many of you are giving value to that community? How many of you are responding to the questions that community people are asking who are your target audience?
Yeah, actually very well said, Meher. And as I said, it's a social media. You have got to be social. You can't just go and just say or post your thing and then come back. You have to start engaging with other people. It is
absolutely,
really
absolutely.
I think most of the people
you want engagement, so you have to give engagement as well.
Absolutely. And do not sell in these platforms. For God's sake, please never sell. The sales is a byproduct of your contribution. So when you are part of this community, or when you are following your Dream 100, or when you are looking up to those, in a day, spend an hour to respond to your audience who are looking up to the same person that you look up to. Sure. An hour, reply to those people who are not getting answered. And then in the community, start contributing some subjects, some content which you think is a pain area to your audience. Talk about that. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to see a super response to this. Your personal branding is going to skyrocket.
So great.
You know,
Yeah.
Side Meher, Harvinder, what do you think about that? Guys, we are
So-
running a bit short of time, so we kind of need to hurry it up, but then let's go. Harvinder.
So, I'll just share with you one process that I do, and it's a very basic process and something that Meher had already touched upon initially when he spoke about, digital media and personal branding, is the audience persona. So when I'm looking at my target audience, I go beyond the demographics in terms of, what is the age group, the location, etc. I look at going to the level of how they dress up, what is it that they do, what do they look like, and that gives me a visual experience of trying to figure out what are these activities that these people engage in. And the moment you do that, you will know what platforms these guys are present on. So for example, you may decide that, my audience is on Facebook. Then you know that this kind of an audience on Facebook is engaging in a certain level of activity or certain kind of content. And that clearly defines what is the kind of content and the frequency that I need to follow to be able to engage, to target them and engage with this particular audience. So, the starting point is a very basic point in terms of understanding your audience and what is it that they are doing. So on social media.
Nisha, so my question to you would be again, what kind of content you feel as a content expert we should use for different platforms? What is your take on that?
See, I personally feel that we have to, build our entire content strategy depending on who is consuming it. And I also am aware of the fact that the way people consume content on Facebook is not the same way they would consume on LinkedIn and also and Instagram or YouTube or any other channel. So even though you are saying the same message, and in your personal branding, your message is really, really important. The treatment of the format for various media should be different as well.
Okay.
The content which makes very most impact on Facebook may not end up making that kind of impact on LinkedIn, for the very nature that LinkedIn is a serious platform. People are there to talk about their work or they want to talk about their products, their services, their personal journey, their professional journey. And Facebook, the kind of content that we consume on Facebook will not cut ice there. Facebook is very up close and personal. People have gotten used to, Facebook being social media of a sort. It's more about conversation. It's more about, it's like talking to your friend or your community. It's like a gaon ki chaupal, whereas LinkedIn is more like a corporate group. So that is the intention again. So that is why we choose the kind of content the kind of treatment that we build to our content has to be similar. Even if the messaging is the same, the ideation behind that is the same.
Okay.
But the way we are going to say it is going to be very, very different.
And
because we are talking to different target audience and user behavior as well.
Okay. And how do you create the vision plan? I mean, how do you actually create a plan for any brand or any person? What is the thought process? I mean, how do you really build it up?
See, there are 2 or 3 ways of doing it. It's actually very simple, Sandeep. It actually just requires a consistency and self-discipline. And of course, everyone, all of us, we know the kind of topic that we are going to talk about. We are all, experts in our own area, or the way we work. So the whole idea is, again, figuring out what we are going to say, who we are going to say it to, and when are we going to say.
Okay.
And keep on doing it consistently. That is number 1. Number 2, as Meher pointed out, we find out, our vibe attracts our tribe. So we need to find out who are the other people who are connecting with that kind of content, and what are the other communities that we can actually share and engage with that content. And then it's more about documenting, it's more about documenting your journey, be it personal, be it professional. It's about letting people know what you are going through, what have you learned, what are you doing, and then also talking to other people on what their experiences have been, how have they learned. It is more of a conversation. It is more of a social conversation that happens, and the content is just a format in which we are mapping all these journeys, and it is as simple as that.